Welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode 101. In this episode, we're going to be talking about why you're spending too much money on photography gear, or maybe why you're not spending enough. Hi, my name is William Beem.
Hi, my name is Lee Beem.
And we want to talk to you about really making sure that you're getting the right gear, not spending too much, and maybe if you're going a little too cheap, making sure that you're spending enough. Before we get to that, I want to let you know that show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 101, and you can find links to subscribe there. You can also find a player for the show at photoflunky.com. And before we also get into that, I want to let you know that we've got a coupon code from MacFun, which is becoming Skylum, SKYLUM. You can find a link to it at williambeem.com/MacFun, and the code is the same as my last name, Beem, BEEM. That'll save you $10 off of Luminar or Aurora HDR, and it'll give you 10% discount on some of their other products. I really do like MacFun, and I think it's worth checking out. You can probably get a free trial over there, and then when you're ready to buy, just put in my coupon code, BEAM, and save yourself a little bit of money. Let's talk about the problems with buying gear, and I have probably made every mistake that we're going to talk about here, and may yet make more, but for right now, I guess when it comes to buying gear, I've been doing this for a number of years, and I've got way too much of some stuff. I'm looking back over in a closet, and I've got a plethora of like camera bags. And most of them really aren't being used, and I've kind of gone through different shapes and changes and different styles, and I've really come across with the bags that I like very much now, and I use them over and over again. You can tell because they're filthy.
Good gear.
But some of the other ones, it's like, why did I buy those bags? And why did I keep on spending money buying bags when really you don't need that many bags?
Yeah, I think it's like the shoe fetish thing. You've got a bag fetish.
I do have a bag fetish because even besides camera bags, I've also got messenger bags that I like.
Yes.
I go to Timbuktu, and I don't have an affiliate or anything with them. I just simply like building messenger bags. They've got different fabrics. You can kind of put them together yourself and make a custom, unique bag. See, this is my fetish. I'm talking about bags again.
Yes.
All right. That's a bit off topic, but I guess what we really wanted to make sure is that you understand what your needs are going to be. Lee, when you're looking at gear, let me take it a different way. It's not necessarily when you're looking at gear. When do you realize that you need to buy something?
Well, when something no longer works for whatever my needs are, or if there is a need that isn't met. It's that simple.
What was the last thing you actually bought for your photography gear? It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a long time. I think it was the upstrap.
Okay. What made you decide to buy that?
I bought it because I was using a 70-200 on my camera, and although it's not a full frame, I was walking around for 12, sometimes 16 hours a day, and having the neck strap on, I had such bad spasms down my neck and my back that I realized I needed to do something. I'd been doing this for a few weeks, and I decided, or maybe it had been a weekend where I'd been away, and I realized before I went away for a few weeks with this lens that I would need to come up with something different.
And I've been through a number of straps. It's like, my gear is so heavy, I don't want to have it around my neck. I mean, it's not really designed that way. I got the upstrap, which I'll put a link in the show notes about that, because this is a really cool strap, and it's something I've recommended and really enjoyed. It's got a nice little rubber piece that fits on your shoulder, and it's considered a shoulder strap rather than a neck strap or maybe a crossbody strap. Unless you're smaller than I am, which I guess a lot of people probably are, you could probably use it as a crossbody strap. But
I do. That's how I use it.
But what it does is it's got some little quick link things that you can kind of plug the strap into stuff that's mounted on, the camera straps on your camera body. And I'm probably not describing this very well, but basically you can easily unplug it and plug it in.
You can release the strap from either side without having to go through the little straps and the rings on the camera. So you've still got the attachments onto the camera, and then it's got release points.
But the reason we like it is its claim to fame is that it doesn't slip off your shoulder.
It really doesn't. Now, I wear mine across the body. And having said that, also, like if I'm leaning, I don't want the camera to swing behind me. If I lean forward or lean to the side, I don't want the whole camera and strap to start rotating around me as a unit. I'm quite small. So that, I do wear it across the body, and it really doesn't move. So I like, if I have to move the camera, I have to grab the strap and pick it up and shift it into a different position. And I actually like that.
And I've carried this as a shoulder strap for years. And I've got a couple of, I've got a couple different bodies, and that way I can just kind of plug it into whichever one I need to use. And if I'm going to have my camera on a tripod, it's very easy to disconnect the strap so it's not bothering me while I'm on a tripod. And it really does what it says. It doesn't slip off your shoulder. Even if I bend over and I'm going to pick something up, that's when you think that you would lose grip on your shoulder and the strap would fall off.
No, it doesn't move.
It just doesn't do it. And like I said, I've used it for years. I've recommended it. I'm finally actually looking at another strap that I like, at least from what I've seen online, and might end up changing over to something from Peak Design. They've got a slide strap that'll work as either a shoulder strap, a crossbody strap, or a neck strap, and it connects in a similar way that you can easily disconnect it. But one of the things that it does is it connects maybe one end to the bottom of your camera and one end to one of the camera straps. You can see that compared to maybe something like the Black Rapid, where they put something in the mount on the bottom of your camera, and then it just kind of bobbles around.
Yeah, I did not like that setup at all.
I didn't like that either. So I bought the Rapid strap because so many people said it was cool, but honestly, the way it bobbled around. And I also remember something I heard from Scott DeUsa at Nikon Professional Services. He said that bottom mount, that you put on your tripod, was not meant to hold the weight of your camera. Oh. He says, I can't tell you how many times I've seen cracked camera. That screw hole had cracked because it was mounted upside down, and the weight of it, maybe with a long lens or something, pulled it down, and somebody's camera crashed at the bottom.
Yeah, it just looked like an accident waiting to happen. It was the swinging that bothered me. I just saw a cracked lens or something from it hitting against something.
Yeah. So Peak Designs actually has a nice strap, and they've got a new version of it coming up mid-December, so I'm going to take a look at that. But the upstrap has been phenomenal, and I don't really need to change. I'm kind of curious about this one. And that's where you get into trouble. Is like, okay, do you really need another strap? In my case, the honest answer is no. But I'm curious.
Okay, that's a good enough. See, that's a good reason for you, because it suits the way that you work through things.
I kind of do want to work with a crossbody strap, and the upstrap, honestly, is a bit too short on my body.
For me, that's the reason, because I want my camera across the body. Not because I'm small, the upstrap works across the body. If it did not, I'd also be looking for another strap. So for me, that would be the justifying reason.
Yeah, I can put it crossbody, but it's a bit of a tight fit, and it's not adjustable. The one I'm talking about from Peak Design, it's called the Slide. It has a simple little thing on the front where you can just lift a tab and loosen it up so you can get it on and off. And another thing where you just pull down, it'll tighten it up in case you want it tighter on your body. So it's very adjustable. I'm curious about it. And that's why I was kind of wondering, it's like, well, do I need to buy this, or does it just, simple as I want it, that kind of decision. But when it comes to deciding on your needs, I think a lot of people buy stuff maybe because it's a fad rather than because of a need.
They buy stuff because they see somebody else take a nice photo, or they see somebody else get out of a nice car with a camera. And I'm being absolutely serious. And they think, I want to have, if they've got something, it must be good, and therefore I need to have it to be better. I don't fall for that crap. I'm not at all molded by peer pressure. I'm just, it just doesn't draw me.
The places I think where I see this the most are probably with camera bodies and camera lenses. They think, oh, I've got to have the newest, I've got to have the latest and greatest, and I've got to have this lens because this lens is better than my lens. And yet, I can take beautiful photos, I think, with that little point and shoot that we've got.
Yeah.
I mean, under the right conditions, it's not going to work as well in low light or other circumstances, but day to day, you can take some really nice shots with some very inexpensive gear. And if you're going to be taking studio shots, with flashes or strobes, you're going to stop down anyway. So that f1.4 or whatever you're looking at doesn't do you much good if you're going to be shooting at f8 or f11.
Exactly.
So you can actually take some nice shots with some less expensive lenses. So what do we recommend that you look for? And I guess our number one thing is look at the quality of the item. So in other words, I don't advocate buying something that's too cheap for your needs, but you don't have to spend a lot of money to get good quality.
Absolutely not. In fact, through my experience through life, not just with photography, I have learned that people automatically assume that the more expensive of any number of items in a category is going to be the best. And I have found that is sometimes not true. In my experience, usually somewhere you want to avoid the cheapest stuff. If you like to throw money around, you can give some of it to me, or you can go and spend it on the most expensive stuff. But your best quality usually lies somewhere in the middle. And depending what it is that moves, often your most expensive items in any category are actually things that are maybe not necessarily any better than something that was midway through there, except that they've got a whole lot of, bells and whistles on it. And it's the bells and whistles when I look at it, the same. Usually, none of them are really of any benefit or use to me. I don't need to show off accessories I have if they don't serve a purpose. So for me, finding something that is absolutely functional is primary. I don't want to pay for stuff I don't need.
Well, and sometimes you're just paying for the name brand. And we've found that the name brand, as Lee said, isn't always the best quality item.
It's not. There are exceptions. Sometimes it is.
No, there are exceptions, but there's a reason why you pay for a name. And the reason is not so other people can see you with that name.
That's true.
You're paying for that name if they have a good reputation for quality. And that's why I buy Nikon lenses. I've actually used some third-party lenses. Some of them were very good. When I was shooting crop sensor, Nikon had a 12 to 24 millimeter lens. I think it was like $1,200 or so at the time. I bought a Tokina 12 to 24 for a third of that price.
It was better.
It was at least every bit as good. I never could see a difference as to why it was worth spending more on the Nikon one. In most cases, I buy a Nikon lens because of the autofocus system. It's silent, it's fast, it tracks well. I tried a Sigma lens, and this is years ago, so I don't know if this is true of their current lenses. It was loud, it was clunky, and it was hunting back and forth, and it was slow. To me, it was worth paying for Nikon to get the performance that I expected out of a lens.
Yeah, you wouldn't have enjoyed the stuff that was distracting.
No, I mean it sounded like a coffee grinder when I was using it. And it's like that was just not a good experience.
Yes, that's how everyone describes it. My brother had some.
So I don't mean to rag on Sigma because I haven't tried all of their lenses, and maybe their current quality is much better. This was, like I said, maybe 2009. It was several years ago. So I'm hoping that Sigma is much better now. They've got an art series lens that people really seem to like.
Yes.
But I don't care. I've been very, very pleased with my Nikon lenses. Unless I can find a good reason that somebody's got something that's really outstanding, better than the Nikon lens, or I'm going to stick with that brand name, not because of the name Nikon, but because of the quality I've experienced in the past.
Mm-hmm.
On another example, though, this happens with Lee. We've mentioned before she's an endurance runner. Runners go through a lot of shoes. Not only do they, it's not a matter of just wearing them, for running through and getting done with it. You actually have to rotate your shoes when you do the mileage that she does.
Yeah.
But you found that you don't have to buy the current year's model in order to go run.
Well, no, because, remember that in a few months, the 2017 lines are only a few months old.
Yeah.
So I found that if I just wait 6 months, once the stuff's not on top, there are places that are trying to clear the stock from the shelves, and sometimes you have to search around. But I've got a rule: I don't pay more than $50 for a pair of shoes, and I don't think I've bought a pair of shoes that wasn't at its original price. It's sort of sitting around the $130 to $150 mark. Yeah. We did buy. I did once get a pair that was more expensive, and that gave me the least endurance, least durability. I mean, I've never had such poor mileage on a pair of shoes. So yeah, my view is I'm not going to be sucked into the newest stuff, because as soon as it gets dirty, it's old.
And that's kind of what we're talking about, buying quality. You can get quality that isn't necessarily the latest thing out on the market. And maybe if you're looking for a current fashion trend and that's your need, I don't know why, but because I have horrible sense of fashion. If that's your need, then you're spending the money for it. That's great. But your need in this case is you go out and pound, miles and miles, and you don't necessarily need the latest thing. The one that came out, last year's model, works just as well.
Yeah.
And it cost you, maybe a third of what you would pay brand new.
Oh, easily. Yeah. I think I've had a few that are maybe like in the 55 mark. Sometimes they're shipping on top of it, but still, you just watch the stuff that comes out and things I like it, keep an eye on them, and 6 months later, the price is gone.
Something else that I've been kind of looking at lately is just, carry-on luggage. I've got a decent carry-on bag. It's not very expensive. The only thing about it that I don't like is that it comes up with one post in the center rather than having two posts to go to a handle. And the reason for that is when I travel with a laptop that has a little slot that goes over the back, it doesn't ride smoothly on the bag. But I looked at some of the name brands, and they're like $300 or $400. And I thought, yeah, I don't need to spend that much money on a suitcase.
I've had a few of those.
And what did you end up doing?
Each one survived one trip and then had to be replaced because the one you saw, the one when I flew over here,
yeah,
that was an expensive name brand, And I had to go and get spare luggage straps that I happened to have left from a previous trip in my carry-on so that I could tie it together, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to move it. I needed help to get it off the carousel. The whole thing had literally just come apart.
And I watched this happen to some poor man just when you were doing your marathon, and I was, walking around in Las Vegas while she's out running her 26.2 miles. And I was going through the rotating door at Caesar's Palace, and the gentleman in front of me grabbed the handle for his rolling, carry-on luggage, and it just popped right off. And this was a nice bag, but it just suddenly decided, right then and there, I'm going to break.
I mean, I've got some really, really cheap suitcases, full size, and the rollerboards. And we've been using them for years and years, and they're absolutely fine. They don't necessarily look pretty. They're very plain. There's no, frills on them. But the really expensive ones, it carried on for a few years. One trip and, the handle would come off, or two of the wheels would just fall off. And this is not in the hold on a plane. This is while you just dragging it along somewhere, rolling it along the ground. And it gets replaced because it's under warranty. And the next trip, you've got a new one, and that one falls apart. And eventually, I think I just took the cash.
Yeah, it's like, why spend hundreds of dollars on a bag when, in fact, let's say even if a cheaper one was going to fall apart, you could buy a lot of cheaper ones for your trips rather than paying.
Well, then you've got disposable bags that actually works out the same, just the same. So.
But our advice really isn't to buy expensive or buy cheap. It is to buy good quality stuff
and buy what you need. You need to buy something that suits your needs.
Now, in addition to that, the other thing that we really want to look for is good customer service. If I don't get good customer service, the business I'm doing business with is dead to me.
Your product is only as good as the service that backs it.
And I'm talking, this is not necessarily just for photography gear. This is for anything. It could be an online service. If you're not getting quality customer service, you're not getting the value for your money.
No, absolutely. I want to know that I've got the follow-up aftercare.
And one of the other things that we like to check on, and if this is not politically correct, I'll apologize now, but we want to know who's providing the customer service so that we can communicate clearly with them.
Yes, I won't apologize for that. I'm quite open about it. I need to be, I speak English, and I need somebody who can understand and have a conversation with me if I have a problem. I don't need somebody who can only read off a screen and then gets confused when my question doesn't fit into the multiple choice they have. That doesn't work for me.
And it's happened to us before. I mean, we've been on the phone trying to communicate with somebody who doesn't really understand what we're saying, doesn't understand the product that they're supporting. If we don't fit within the script, then they don't know what to do, and they just kind of shuffle us off. It's not good customer service.
Yeah, and that's a big deal for me because I never fit in the script. It's just, I'm not going through that.
No, you're definitely unique.
Even my problems, I don't create them, but they're all different.
All right. We talked about, buying something you need, and the other one is kind of avoiding buying something that you don't need. And honestly, I am really guilty of this. I've bought so many things. I mean, one of the things I really got caught up in was a filter called the Lee Big Stopper, which is a 10-stop filter. It is glorious. It is the best one out there. I've never used it for a shot that I've shown anybody. I'm serious.
Because everybody else had one.
Well, you know what? I came down to it. This is at a time when I was trying to decide what kind of photographer I really want to be. And, I've really settled primarily on portrait photography and also a bit of travel photography. But the idea that I'm going to go be a landscape photographer and I'm going to put up these really slow motion, long exposure shots really hasn't worked out to be my thing. And this is not an inexpensive item to get. It's kind of hard to come by. They can only make so much of them because of the manufacturing process. I can probably turn around and sell this thing on eBay without any problem, but I didn't need it. I just had to have it. And you understand the difference?
Yes.
So if anybody's in the market for a Lee Big Stopper, let me know.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, as long as you're aware that you're doing it because you want it, I think that's fine. But a lot of people believe that they're making a good value purchase and investing in something, and it's not an investment if you don't get payback in the way that you benefit from using it.
The place where this thing really works is typically around water and maybe the clouds if you want to really make those smooth out. But in Florida, we've got plenty of water. The coast, I can drive to the East Coast within an hour and a couple hours maybe to get someplace on the West Coast. I don't have waterfalls around here, except for maybe that one out at Animal Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe I'll use this once to go get a picture at Animal Kingdom because they have a waterfall.
Yeah.
But I never went up to Oregon or to Washington State for some of the beautiful waterfall shots that are available over there. I never went to Thor's Well on the Pacific coast, to get that perfect shot of the water rushing in. Or this is something that I bought that I thought I wanted, I thought I was going to use, but honestly, I didn't need it. And that's the kind of thing where now I step back, and usually I'll ask Lee before I buy something, and she'll tell me if I need it or not.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
This one is one of Lee's favorite things: buying the wrong item and then later buying something else.
Yeah, man. You don't buy something in between. Actually, I shouldn't say never, because there are times when you cannot afford what you need, but you need to get the job done. Then it's better to get something that you can get to get the job done and deal with it later. But buying something and then having to replace it because it doesn't work. Like, for example, we're talking about camera bags. You go and get a bag for a trip, but you don't think about how you're going to use it beyond that trip. And then you come back and it doesn't work for the next one. And, I did that where I wanted my camera not to roll around in it. And I got a pretty compact bag to carry with the camera and the lens mounted. After I bought the camera, did I get a new camera body or a new lens after I got the bag? And basically I bought the thing and ended up having to sell it because I couldn't, it didn't accommodate my new camera body with the lens on. It was either a lens or a camera. Something changed, and within a month, that item was useless and unused.
And for bags, there are different purposes for bags. I've got my rolling bags where I want to carry stuff to a studio shoot, but I'm not going to take that if I'm walking around traveling or, doing something else kind of where I'm not stationary, because it's just too heavy and too awkward to take that with me. There are different needs. So you might have more than one camera bag, but if you look at my collection, if you could see it, you'd realize that I've really taken this to extreme as to how many bags that I've got. And clearly I don't need them.
He has more bags than I have shoes.
I don't know. It's that bad. I mean, you have dozens of shoes.
Well, they're all running shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a shoe fetish? Just a running shoe fetish?
I use them, though. I use them to death.
Well, I've used these bags at least once each time.
Okay. That's fair.
But sit down and think about what you need. I've been planning for an upcoming trip, which unfortunately it looks like it's probably not going to happen. And I'm looking through all these bags thinking, what do I need? And for a fleeting moment, I thought, maybe I need to buy another bag.
If you had only 2 or 3 bags, it would probably be really easy to pick one and it would work without you second guessing it. But you've got so many choices now. Like, how do you choose?
I called you in here and asked you which of these 2 bags was better, and you told me your opinion.
I did.
And I put my gear in there and I checked it out and I thought, all right, this works. I don't need to buy anything that's bigger or different. But it's always in the back of my mind. It's like, ooh, there's a chance to buy another bag.
Oh, so if I was a good wife, I would have said it didn't work. You need to go get another one.
You're always a good wife. But you've got this little saying, the most expensive thing you buy is the thing you buy twice.
Yeah.
And this happens, I think, when you're being a little too cheap. So we talked about when you're spending too much money on photography,
usually,
or not enough. The answer to what we're really talking about there when we say or not enough is you're buying something that isn't going to last or isn't really up to spec, and it's not going to work. So you're going to end up having to buy something else later on. It could be a cheap tripod. It could be the wrong lens. It could be the wrong bag or the wrong
for me,
body.
it was the wrong filter. And I didn't buy it cheap. I got it, from a fairly reputable brand that does filters. But they weren't up in the top lines there. So I paid maybe $50 or $60 for a neutral density filter. And honestly, the photos were terrible. I thought there was dirt on my lens. And when it didn't come off, I realized it was just kind of a really bad filter. So I ended up having to invest and buy another one. And then I had no problem. But I lost the photos I took, not realizing how bad it was.
Yeah. So it's not just a matter of maybe you spent too much money because you bought filters twice, but also you lost an opportunity in whatever you spent to travel to that place.
Yeah. I mean, those photos were useless.
Yeah. And I'll have to see if that happens to me with the Lee Big Stopper. For as much as that thing costs.
It's really good. I actually got mine for fireworks, not because I didn't do landscapes.
This one is too dense for fireworks.
Actually, I think if you recorded it, if you left the shutter open for an entire show, you'd probably get a pretty cool.
All right, well, we'll try that to see if you're right. But I don't think I like that simply because I want the fireworks burst for a certain amount of time. Then I want to cover up so I don't get the strays that are going off.
Well, you can cover up.
All right, I'm getting off topic. But what we're talking about though is you you want to buy quality again. And if that costs you a little bit more than what the alternative is, it's still cheaper than screwing up with the wrong thing and then having to go back and buy the quality after all.
Yeah, I agree.
So we talked about avoiding fads, and there are a lot of fads in photography. I think one of the things I see coming up now is dogs are barking. One of the fads I see coming up now is software. I think it's called a plotograph or plotograph. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And this is something that kind of takes your photo and makes a little movie out of it. So like the clouds look like they're flowing along, the water looks like it's flowing. You got a volcano, it looks like the lava's flowing. And I just think this is a gimmick, and it's something that people are going to be doing for a while. It's a fad, and then next year it's going to be gone.
Yeah, probably.
I could be wrong. Some people really like this. They're very happy with it. But I look at it as something that's it's like, it's here now. It's going to be gone tomorrow. And I try to avoid stuff like that.
Oh, I'm not really into it.
The last thing we wanted to talk about is understanding when your needs actually change. And it is time to buy again. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong, that you didn't buy quality, you didn't buy something with good customer service. But if your needs change, if you switch genres of photography, or maybe you switch from mirrorless to a DSLR or back and forth, then the gear that you're going to have to go with it is going to be different. So you just have to accept that if your needs change, it's time to buy a tool that works for your new need.
Your purpose.
That's happened to me every once in a while. The biggest change I made was switching over from crop sensor to full frame. And I haven't gone back. I haven't really felt compelled to do that. There's nothing wrong with crop sensor for what I wanted to do. Full frame gave me better low light capabilities, and it gave me a better depth of field, and also allowed me really to use the lenses that I really wanted to use. Not that they wouldn't fit on crop sensor, but then you weren't getting quite the same area of the lens that you do with full frame. For travel, you know what? I might have a very different need than what I do for, let's say, portrait photography. I want my full frame stuff for portrait photography. But for travel, we just took that trip and we shot with iPhones and a point and shoot and maybe a GoPro. Yeah. And we're not disappointed at all.
No, I use only an iPhone. I'm doing a pretty lengthy blog post with a lot of photos in it. They're all taken with my phone.
That's not saying that we're going out there shooting art prints.
No.
I mean,
definitely not.
These shots were for travel stories. So again, the tools were sufficient for what we needed, and so was the gear that we took with us. It was rather inexpensive, actually, and easy to carry around. That was suitable to our need. I got out there with my Timbuktu messenger bag to carry this stuff around and on the airplane.
But I wouldn't have been able to use anything bigger than a mobile phone, going around where I was, because I wanted to take pictures within the secure areas of the racing events. I couldn't take a camera, even a point and shoot. It just wouldn't have been practical. So I was able to get photos inside and short videos and do a few live videos that I could never have done with the camera.
You know what? That kind of goes back to your needs. And again, we talked about this on a previous episode that we were going to Las Vegas. You want to take videos or something inside of a casino, they don't really question you too much if you're out there with your cell phone camera or maybe a GoPro or even a small point and shoot. But once you start pulling out a Nikon in my case, a D800 with a battery grip and a 7200 millimeter lens, I think security probably would have come up and asked me a few questions.
Yeah, which is so silly because the photo is a photo. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that, but you can either take pictures or you cannot take pictures. I don't see what the difference is with having a big camera, but anyways.
Yeah, we don't go around sniping shots, but we're aware that people get paranoid when they see big cameras.
Yeah.
So it's just a reality that we deal with. And we said, fine, we've got a small camera. It'll do just as well for us.
Yes, and it did.
Okay, so those are our thoughts on why you might be spending too much on photography if you're buying the wrong things or they're not suiting your purpose, or in some cases, why you're spending too much because you're not buying the right thing in the first place. If you've got any thoughts on this, we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining us on the Photo Flunky Show, episode 101. You can find free show notes at williambeam.com/episode 101. And also, we'd like to give you a free ebook on portrait photography. It's called Creative Portraits. Just go to williambeam.com/freebook and take a look at it, download it. It's about the creative and emotional side of portrait photography. If you like it, let us know, share it with a friend, and we hope you really enjoy it. Finally, if you like this show and you like our episodes, that's wonderful. Tell us. Go to iTunes. We can go to williambeam.com/iTunes It'll take you right to our page on iTunes, and you can leave us a review and just let us know what you think. Thank you so much, everybody. See you again next week.